Hi guys, welcome to the show. So nice to see you all. I, I made a video earlier today. I ran a live stream, very short one. I'll post the link here. Um, and it was just about the blurring of the line between honest editorial and blatant advertorial on one of at least my favorite outlets for watches, Hodinky. Um, and as you might know, they had an investment group in almost 2 years ago now, in late 2020, inject about $40 million. And that investment group included LVMH, Louis Vuitton, Moet Hennessy. And of course, as it happens, they own a number of watch brands as well. Bulgari, Chaumet, which is a very nice Parisian jeweler that also sells watches. Very quirky and interesting watches, by the way. I know Bill Sanders of Watch Arts and Sci just got himself an older Chaumet watch, which includes a very interesting design and beautiful movement. At any rate, so they have also, of course, Zenith. They have Tag, and I think they have one more that probably escapes me at this point in time. But yeah, all of this being said, to me, the enthusiasm that this particular week on the wrist review showed towards the watch was a little out of proportion, especially in its suggestion that a super collector like a John Goldberger would not sneeze at it or something like that, and that he might actually wear it as his only watch, which was just weird. But all of this being said, I think the premise of the article was very promising, and that was the first watch, right? And I want to have this question at the center of our discussion tonight. What would you recommend to someone who asks you, or to a friend, if they were in the market for their first luxury watch, right? Anything goes under, let's set our budget right under 3.5K USD, right? What would you recommend as the first watch, first luxury watch, let's say, for under 3.5K? I think that is a question that we can think seriously about, that we can brainstorm together, come up with different kinds of suggestions, different ideas. I think ultimately, for someone who is just stepping into this market, no pun intended, the price tag makes that particular Tag Heuer professional Aquaracer 200 actually quite interesting. So I won't. This is just to let you know that I don't have anything against the watch. It's just, to me, the collusion of financial interests of Hodinky as an honest outlet that still serves a lot of interesting and informative watch-related content, Hodinky as a retailer, and Hodinky as the advertising arm of LVMH branded watches. So I think that's a little bit disconcerting in the long term, to say the least. M36 Speed, welcome to the channel. So nice to see you. Enjoy your content. Question: I have a 11671 GMT, black, 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 but keep lusting after a no holes 16710 Pepsi 2006. Am I crazy to think about swapping? Look, you asked an enabler when it comes to that, because you know that I'm a solidly pre-ceramic Rolex guy. I do love the GMT black, black, black. That was the first ceramic GMT. I think it was, in fact, the first ceramic bezel insert that Rolex introduced in the lineup, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong. That being said, I have just myself acquired last February 16710 Coke from 1997. So a Holz case, 5-digit GMT Master 2. And I'm over the moon. I'm absolutely happy with this watch. I have had my GMT Master root beer for quite a while now. So I'm a fan of the concept. I'm a fan of the model, and I do prefer pre-ceramic Rolexes. So if you ask me, I don't think that's unreasonable. I know at the end of the day, besides true vintage and besides certain desirable models in the secondary market, some pieces that have had a very limited production run or were discontinued too quickly, besides those pieces, the post-2000 Rolexes, I think, will need a little more time for true vintage appreciation. So if it's an issue of simply your desire for a certain aesthetics, your really need for that particular watch, I think you should go for it. You know, if consider it carefully, because in the short run, right, you might have certain doubts creeping back into your mind, because probably if and when the market picks up, you'll end up thinking about how the ceramic GMTs, especially a discontinued model like the GMT Black, is gonna gain more value, and 16710, the 5-digit, might lag just a little bit behind. But in the long run, I think you are safe, and as long as you get what you want and what you like, I think you'll be good. Hey,
Lord.
Tampa Bay Florida in the house. How are you?
Lord. I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. As long as you don't start singing that Janis Joplin song that Archie usually serenades me with, I'll be good.
Got the wrong guy.
Your suggestion was pre-owned Omega, unless you're dying to talk about something else.
First of all, what's wrong with going pre-owned? Well, I guess the big thing that's, that stops people is the trepidation. New people, they have trepidation about going out there and buying something, throwing out the cash, that they're not sure it's real, it's been tampered with. Is that a real dial? Is it fake? All that stuff. But anyways, yeah, Omega.
Yep.
This is a Planet Ocean. I gave 3,700 for this. This is a 43.5. Mm-hmm. This is one of the newer ones. This is the ceramic dial, ceramic bezel, 8,900 movement, liquid metal bezel. This is a newer watch. This is a couple years old. I paid 3,700 for this. So this blows the budget by $200, right?
That's okay.
Um,
As long
but I
as we don't
actually,
creep on, 5,000, I think we are fine. We're still in the range.
sure, I've got two more that live in the same role here that are at the same price point that I'll show you guys. Um, and again, it's kind of hard for me to say, yeah, I recommend these as your first because they have their quirks, and I think a lot
Of
of people
course.
want to buy something solid steel for the first one. But let's see if I can do this with the cam. Uh,
Well, look, in the meantime, Messaging Matters agrees with you, and he's recommending the first Bond watch, basically, which was
yeah,
reference 2531.80. And so do I, by the way. Get one that you can that has a good bracelet, um, that has a bracelet in good condition, I should say.
absolutely. I mean, that's a classic. That's an icon, right?
And I actually love the dial on that much better than the laser engraved recent versions of the Omega Seamaster 300 P. Let me pull it up. I mean, even on Chrono 24, of course, you have a wealth of options when it comes to that particular model. That was going to be my first suggestion.
It's funny that you mentioned that about the dial because as of late, I'm not a fan of the wave dial because I feel like it's just done too thick. But
Yeah.
on the older versions, it's done nice and thin, and I believe that's done hand done.
Yes.
Well, it's
The
replicated through the machine.
hand guided
Yes, yes,
gyosho in the older 90s versions.
and it's a
Again,
lot more subtle than it is in the current version.
this is not the best condition, but if we go closer to 3K, there's a lot coming out of Japan, as you can see. Yeah, this seems, for example, a lot better. The aluminum bezel aged very gracefully. Everything seems quite crisp.
Absolutely, and there's lots of them out there to choose from. There's
Yeah,
a
and there we
there's a
are.
sea of them. Yeah.
And it's cheaper, really, than that Aqua Racer 200 professional that Hodinky was peddling. So there we
Absolutely. And even if you have to service that thing, you have to send it into Omega for 500 bucks. And people say, well, that's a lot for a service. You're going to be without the watch for a while. But what Omega does is completely break down the watch. Every single part is being refinished and restored to original spec and then returned to you. And if I understand correctly, they actually bag up any old parts that they replace and send them back to you as well. So
That's
there's
very unlike Rolex, of course.
That's right. Just real quick, I can't stay too long, but I did want to show the other two if that's okay with you.
Please.
Um, absolutely. And like I mentioned, both of these were at like the same price point. These are newer watches, of course, but here, if I can dodge the reflection, we've got the Tudor 925 Black Bay 58 that also picked up on the pre-owned market for about 3,700.
And M3 6-speed agrees with you on that.
Awesome. And this one's a little tougher for people to kind of swallow, but that's a B13 caliber Navitimer. So that's a Valjoux 7750 that's modified by Breitling. They've actually recently discontinued this in favor of the B1 across the board. So that's kind of interesting to note. I'm assuming it's supply chain issues, but both of those 3,700 bucks. So.
Thank you for sharing, Eric. That was
Sure.
great. Messaging Matters again. Oh Lord, won't you buy me a Rolex root beer?
While we're talking about Tudor, since I just threw one up on screen, we got the new Tudor root beer. Something about it just doesn't do it for me. I don't know if it's the reddish brown color or if it's the The
It's the rolled.
bracelet.
It's the rolled gold. The fact that
Yeah.
not real gold for the center links.
Yeah, and I guess I would even be okay with that, but there's something about it. Maybe it's the photography, but the overall color scheme of the pictures that are coming out of it looks muddy to me. And in some ways, the bracelet is just overkill. That looks like a watch that just looks a lot better and more subdued on a strap. That's me.
Yeah. Well, let's pull it up. It is out of that price range, but let's see whether.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. It won't live in that price range for a while, I guess. So.
Yeah, I mean, look, list price is 5,500.
Yeah.
I'm sure actually people are gonna. I'm sure it's gonna be really popular if you ask me, because people love Tudor and people loved all these new releases, and they can't get Rolex. Tudor is the next best option.
Absolutely. And, that obviously doesn't fall in that price bracket. But right now on the secondary, really all of the Black Bay 58s are falling right around 3,000.
Absolutely.
And that's an interesting watch. Of course, it's overhyped. People have been talking about it for 2 years since beyond 2 years. Once we went into lockdown across the world, everyone chatted about it incessantly, nonstop. But I have a 7.25-inch wrist, and when I wear a 58, the interesting thing about it, compared to this Planet Ocean, this is a watch that I'm going to bang on everything. I'm going to walk through the door back there. I'll probably smack it on the door jamb. If I get in my car, I'm probably going to smack it on the car door. When I put a 58 on, it's a watch that it's inset enough from the edges of my wrist, and it's thin enough that I'm just not going to bang it on everything. And that's just something that I actually notice when I'm wearing it. I notice its capability to stay out of the way, if that makes sense. It's probably a lot like your old vintage sub, because if I understand correctly, that closely mimics the dimensions and styling of that sub.
Except the thickness. Yeah, well, the vintage sub is very, very sleek and svelte compared
Absolutely.
to the Tudor Black Bay 58. But yes, the proportions are great, and to me, that's one of the reasons that makes Tudor so appealing aesthetically. You know what's wrong with this watch? There's just too many snowflakes. That's it. That's it. That's it. I mean, snowflake hour hand, snowflake second hand, snowflake GMT hand. Fight me. That's too much.
Yeah, it's those things that you're either hot or cold on. I appreciate it. I appreciate where it came from. The idea that it came from a military requirement of something that is an instant visual identification. I can appreciate. I think that aspect of the heritage is really cool. But I get how people can see it and just be thrown off because they're saying, "Well, I'm seeing this diamond up against sticks and circles."
Eric, that's not what I said. This is a GMT watch. This is not your Black Bay 58. So there's also the GMT hand. That there's one snowflake hand. So it's different. You can
absolutely
different things. So this is
yeah, I understand, but for someone who is on the fence on a snowflake to begin with and throw another one in, it's game over, right?
Yeah, and the again, the lack of crown guards for a diver's watch, you can clearly justify it. Big crown, no crown guards. I mean, crown guards were actually introduced so you don't mess with the crown, but let's step back and focus on the vintage aesthetics. But again, I think this just seems too large for this watch. It's
they can't get away from that. I don't know why. I don't know if it's an engineering issue with with the stem and the crown tube. I don't know, but in that previous Black Bay heritage on the 41 sides, they always had that that girth right there. And I think they also had like a little seal there that you could see as well. It's probably not a functional seal, but piece of
I think, like
material.
you said, part of it might be machining, but I think you had your finger on the pulse when you first said it is part of their recognizable aesthetic,
Mm.
right? So probably that's that's a big decision to make for them to
Mhm.
start distinguishing some lines by maybe a smaller crown. That will be a step I'm sure they will take at some point. They will have more watches with crown guards. They will have more watches with smaller crowns, but I think it's a big step for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think for my dollar, Tudor Omega Breitling. I know that sounds really boring to a lot of people. Those are the usual suspects, right? It's
Yeah.
like a Quentin Tarantino movie, but you can roll the dice a lot of other places. I'm sure there's a lot of other sleepers as well that'll deliver bang for the buck and longevity and heritage and all of that. But that's where I would throw my vote.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion actually. Right around 3.5, even less. There's a lot to choose from in the pre-owned market, in the secondary market especially. Um, yeah, Messaging Matters says Tudor root beer no working for me either. I agree. The biggest problem seems to me to be the center links, and it might look nice on a dark strap. I think, look, I have no problem wearing a two-tone watch on its bracelet. I have it right here actually, so I will probably end up changing back into it soon. But I think it's a nice idea sometimes to dress down a two-tone watch on a nice leather strap. Just relax. Even a NATO strap, if the watch fits that kind of aesthetic, and a GMT Master certainly does. Um, but yeah, for me, it's more than just the capped gold or rolled gold center links that are the problem with that watch. But I'm sure it's already had many fans. I know people had Black Bay Pros delivered. Did you see anyone taking delivery of the new Tudor root beer, Eric?
I have not seen any in the flesh. I am part of some Facebook groups, and they seem to be getting distributed around. A lot of people are saying
Hmm.
AD is telling me they're only going to get 3 this year.
Uh-huh.
Whether or not that's true, who knows? But that seems to be what I'm seeing and hearing on the Facebook groups at least.
Mm. Yeah, I think maybe our friend Pavel in the chat got it, or it was supposed to be delivered next week. If he comes back, he sometimes drops by. We'll probably see.
Yeah,
Um,
I guess what everybody's complaining about with that is the thickness, right? Oh, it's too thick. It's 38. So this is the Navitimer. It's a Valjoux. So
mhm.
this one I think is 15 millimeters thick, 14 I think it is. But for me, I'm used to chronographs. So when someone says the watch is too thick, I'm thinking I'm used to having a chrono on my wrist. I'm okay with thick.
Right.
That's all right. But I understand people they expect it to be slimmer.
Yeah. I mean, when I was doing a quick rundown of the Black Bay Pro, as my favorite Tudor release from this particular run of releases, I actually focused on that by saying, some people just prefer to have a little more heft, a little more presence on their wrist anyway. So that's entirely down to personal preference, and I understand, people who go either way. Time is Money says, Eric, does your Planet Ocean have the 1800 movement? I have the white dial, orange ceramic bezel.
Yeah, it does have the 8900, and it runs very true to the spec. The first week I got it and wore it, it was running like +1 seconds. Now that I've really worn it for about a year now, it's on my wrist, +2. But it's an impressive movement. I mean, you can't really fault Omega when it comes to what they're doing in the guts of the watch. And for me, Omega is a brand that was presented to me at a young age as an aspirational brand. For most people, it was Rolex. In my case, it was not. It was Omega. Where I grew up and when I grew up in North Florida, most of the people that I saw with Rolexes on, they were, pardon the phrase, well-to-do rednecks. And for me, when I was 16, I was working in a restaurant, and my boss, the restaurant owner, he pulled me aside and said, "Hey, I want to show you something." And he pulled out a watch that was given to him through retirement in the restaurant industry up in Atlanta, Georgia. And it was a custom-made Omega. It was a Constellation with a square case, which is very awkward, very vintage. And it kind of had a gold nugget textured dial in a very dark shade, which I don't know if that was taken on from patina or what it is. But it was something that he put in my hand, and it just like, wow, it really wowed me. And it's something that really cemented Omega in my mind as an inspirational, aspirational brand. And from then on, I've been an Omega guy, for better or for worse, moon swatch or not.
Oh, I think the problem. Moon swatch is just a symptom. I don't think it's a problem. Moon swatch is just a symptom of Swatch Group doing whatever they want with Omega, and that might be a problem. That might not be, but it is just the truth.
Right.
Omega does not have any independence. Omega does not run its own affairs. Omega has to do what the big boss tells them. That's a shame, because again, Omega is the main hometown rivals of Rolex. Omega, right when it won the so-called horological space race, took in fact a stride to go forward, and basically was about to leave Rolex behind, and the quartz crisis hit, and the whole balance changed for the worse, unfortunately, for Omega, and they have caught up again with Bond, and I think Omega is always very valuable to have as a strong, preferably independent player in that particular segment. And it was always the kind of maybe the brand of reverse snobbery, so to speak, right? That here we have a watch that's of the same quality, if not better, than Rolex, and it costs less, and I know better, right? That's the Omega is the brand for people who like saying I know better. So it has a very important niche and role. I appreciate it. The iconic models. Constellation was, of course, first designed by Gérald Jantin himself, none other than Jantin himself. So Constellation is always important in that sense as well, even though it's not very popular these days.
Mm-hmm. Well, I didn't intend to go down this particular rabbit hole with you, but since we're there, well, I guess you can hit that first.
Yeah, Nomos Orient 38. Let's see. I know some Nomos watches, but I haven't heard of the Orient or Orion. I don't know what how you pronounce this word.
Pull it up, Lord. Pull it up.
I am, yes.
Yeah, Nomos, I mean, horologically, they're known from kind of coming out of that cradle of the same region as Lange, right?
Yes. So Nomos, of course, leans usually very much harder on the so-called Bauhaus simplistic aesthetics. This is actually, compared to other Nomos cases, this is more traditionally designed, although it has, again, quite extended lugs if you see it from far. It's very minimalist, as you see, very thin hands, seconds on the subdial, blued all three of them. The index markers reflect that again, sleekness. And the difference, of course, of Nomos with other Glashütte brands is that they are more machine produced than Lange, but even more than also Glashütte Original, which is also a Swatch Group brand, by the way, for since 2000, year 2000, I think. As a first watch, I think this is great. It's I mean, to me, it's like a modern dress watch. It is in this range that we were considering. So if your aesthetics lean more towards hipster, let's put it where it belongs, I like it. I don't know which dial color you chose. XR.
Now, what kind of hipster are you talking? Do you mean like a turtleneck sweater and cigarette holder, thick black glasses hipster?
Well,
like a proper Bauhaus hipster, or something else?
That's a little too much. Yeah. No, I mean someone who very consciously follows trends in the most general sense. You don't have to necessarily go all steampunk on it, but yeah, I like this. I like this actually perhaps better in the black dial than the white dial. I would like to know what XR Money got at any rate, because I feel this is a little more uniform. I think the yellow gold accents of the indexes play better with this all yellow gold aesthetic. But look, I mean, for the finishing on the movement, I've always enjoyed on Nomos, even though it's done
that's
machine
beautiful.
than what you get in Glashütte Original, and of course in Lange will be hand finished. So it's not really comparable, but for the price range, you are getting one of the best decorated movements. The snailing, the
in-house. They're all in-house, right?
All in-house. Glashütte ebbs, their version of the Côte de Genève. Great watch for the price range, again, especially if you're looking for that dress watch aesthetic. And XR Money says, yes, I got a great discount as well. Thank you for your thoughts. I got the white dial, the one you had on first. Great. I wear suits for work, so a dress watch was needed. In that case, great choice. Not that you can't wear other kinds of watches, but hey, if you still wear suits to work, there are not many lines of work left like that. I think this is great to go with, because you are, you really you are sharing your preferences and aesthetics without screaming too loudly. People would know that this is a discreet dress watch, but people who know watches would know this is Nomos. So you great work, I think.
Yeah, Lord, I think those of us watch nerds in this particular lexicon of geekdom, we look at things and say, oh, well, that's too dressy. Change out the strap. Most people don't care. Most people could care less what's on your wrist. Does it look decent? Okay, you're pass, right? And I think there's a lot of versatility in that for a dress watch.
Oh, look, I mean, when I was still on the East Coast, I would see a lot of trust fund kids with a gold Patek and pink shorts, and it was a nice aesthetic, actually. Yeah. If it's me, I think it went well. So it doesn't mean if you have a dress watch, even in precious metal, again, maybe it might be just a change of straps like you need, or maybe you are going for that kind of contrast, right? Maybe you do want to look like you are just wearing you know, the watch that dad gave you when you graduated from college, and you don't have a care in the world, right? So that's a good aesthetic. But with suits, this certainly would go well, but that doesn't mean you can't wear it anywhere else.
Thumbs up, good choice.
Loose tooth, budget 4 to 9K USD. He's a big guy, travels a lot for work, suits. He really likes 42 millimeter Omega Blue Gold Diver 300. For that budget, what would you recommend, Eric?
That's a tough one for me, Lord, because I'm one of these guys. I'm 42 years young, but I'm of the old school mind that says that if you're putting on a suit, you're putting on a blazer in the morning, you're going out. Is the diver really what you put on the wrist? For me, no. You know, I don't want to dissuade the choice, but that's just kind of my thinking. What do you think?
We're talking about a big guy, right? So
Yeah.
I would, you know, look, I love going quirky sometimes, but and people are already tired of me responding to every single question with reverso, so I'm not going to say that. But why not a JLC Master Control? I think that's a great watch. Let's pull up a few. I don't know if they still have their sector dial. I think that's a lot of fun. But I wanna take a look at that lineup. I think it offers great value, and he should, in the secondary market especially, he will most certainly find a lot of these watches in. Let me see.
And while you're doing that, hopefully I didn't take a shite in the punch bowl by discussing that root beer Tudor and pushing the budget bounds a little bit. And hopefully we're still kind of keeping that in consideration. But if not, you know, so be it.
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, I wouldn't, to this particular request, I wouldn't recommend that anyway. So I have two recommendations. If you like some complications, I think we can still go with Master Control. But the ultra thin actually is a great model for this. So we have two. Let's start with this.
I think you guys were talking about this in the Archieverse. Was it yesterday?
Yes, but I'm gonna start with the one that we didn't talk about. This is the simple version, ultra thin, master, just as the date, 3 hands, very simple, beautiful gold rotor there. Very nice movement, very nice automatic movement. And in the secondary market, of course, you can find this watch for much cheaper than that. But the list price is $83.50. It's 39 millimeter, but I think it wears like a 40 more so. It's ultra thin, so one of the best watches to wear with a suit, even if you don't have a specifically tailored shirt for it that has the cuff just sitting right. It will slip right under it. And if we look at Chrono 24 for this, let's see.
That's a sharp looking watch, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, I know, again, like, you know, this is a few times the Nomos we just looked at in either case. But still, I think, you know, this could be great dress watch. Yeah, I mean, it has, you can easily find it for 6K.
Gorgeous.
The second one we were looking at. Hi, BC. Welcome back. Welcome back. Big Meech, I feel personally aggressed with this, and I'm not gonna give air. Fuck you. I wear all my watches on different kinds of straps. I'm not gonna wear it on bracelet every time just because you feel like it. But that picture where you were putting the lamp to sleep with your subby on was just killer. On Instagram, you posted this shot. It was amazing. It was amazing. Lustu said, I agree. I'm trying to have him look at IWC, JLC, Omega, Globemaster, etc. Yeah, yeah.
So really quick, and we can get back to the those beautiful JLCs. This is a Hirsch leather strap, so this is swimmable, and you know, they advertise these as being waterproof leather straps. This is they call this a 100-meter water resistant leather strap. Obviously, I live in Florida. I'm 10 minutes from the most beautiful beaches in the country. And so I hit the water a lot. I've been in the water with this a couple times. Still looks pretty good. You just got to wipe it off. The high and mighty Tim Masso says that you could expect something like this to last about a year. Seeing as for me, it's on a rotation, I'm guessing I would get 2 years out of it if I'm swimming with it every time I put it on. So I don't know. Never say never. Never say never again with leather on a diver.
Oh, I wear it all the time. Like, you know, I wear my vintage, you know, 60s sub on leather strap all the time. I don't try to pass it off as a dress watch, mind you, but it can work, especially a vintage diver, for sure. Like something like a Submariner, no dates. Honestly, it's a lot plainer and a lot more. Yeah, a lot more appropriate to the occasion than a lot of things that people try to pass as dress watches these days. This is the Master Control calendar. Again, the price is above that limit. Okay, it's what they call either a triple calendar or triple date. So it's not perpetual, but it has day, month, and date around the outer track of the dial. I think actually this is a better looking, this is a more handsome looking watch than the new I think what is it? 30th anniversary model or the 50th anniversary model that they just introduced with the blue dial. Older generations of this you can find for a song on the secondary market, and you will get a quick idea. Again, you know, some of the cheaper examples may not be the best, but you can easily find something under 7.5, maybe 8K.
I think it's gorgeous. My only criticism, if I could levy such a thing, would be that in certain light, you'd probably struggle to gain enough contrast to tell the time, right? There's a lot of emphasis put on that moon phase, and I understand that, and I totally get it. That gets the job done. Yep.
And that's the black dial version. I think again, older generation, as you can see from the different rotor. And the other one that I showed didn't even have an exhibition case back, which for me is not such a drawback, but for others might be.
Right.
But at any rate, so you have a lot of options in the secondary market with this one. And, you know, again, based on where the watch is located, what kind of condition you're looking for, box and papers, etc., it can vary. But you can certainly even get the new version at a slight discount in the secondary market, and perhaps The boutiques I know are very snooty when it comes to JLC. Nevertheless, you can, I think this is a watch, unless you're looking for the blue dial, you can get in the from an AD, and they will probably give you a discount on it as well if you want.
Yeah, and I guess since I brought up that contrast, there's a push-pull, right? You go white dial, you have your nice moon phase, high contrast. You go dark, you lose that, but you gain the indices. So it's like, what do you want? What do you want out of this?
That's true. That's a
And
good way to
that's,
start it.
but beautiful pieces nonetheless.
So Loose Tooth says, yes, those JLC ultra thins are nice. Time is money. Beautiful JLC. I might have to put this on my list. I think JLC's triple calendar watches are again in steel. Great alternative if you are not, if you're into that sort of complication, but somehow you don't want to put all that money into a perpetual calendar watch. It might scratch the itch. George Varghese, good evening from Bali. I'm glad you're having fun. Thank you. It's always lovely to see you here, George. Thanks for dropping by. DP agrees that JLC is awesome. Rick Buds, daily, respectable watch. Again, just like the Omegas we are looking at, just like the Nomos we were looking at, the JLC is also the kind of watch that will fly under the radar for the most part, right? And those who know will know. So it's both the kind of piece that you can easily wear and use on a daily basis, and that's a great criterion for a one watch or first watch, right?
Yeah, I think that's awesome. That's really my style. On a professional level, I work with a lot of small businesses, and to wear something that's too flashy, too well known, too in your face can create problems. But when you wear something subdued, that, you know, a little bit lesser known, when that gets noticed, it's really cool. And it happened to me yesterday. I was filming a city commissioner, and he says, "Hey, that's a really beautiful Omega Planet Ocean you got there on your wrist." And I was like, wow, this guy, this is someone who knows watches. He's not just an Instagram tracker, pocket watcher. You know what I mean? And I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, and the second thing I wanted to say is, of course, a lot of these brands that we discussed, as you just pointed out with your, Planet Ocean encounter, those who know will recognize it, and it will be a great conversation starter as well, right? You know, you fly mostly under the radar, and it draws the right kind of attention usually, where you can have something pleasant as an encounter. DP says Eric is a great panelist. Yes, I'm loving it.
Thanks, DP. Thanks, this is my second time in front of the camera with you, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
it's funny because in my professional world, I'm on the opposite side of the camera. I do a lot of editing and production and stuff. So here we go.
Oh, great! I'm shit at editing. That's why I always do. George Forkey says, not wanting to change the subject. No problem. The headlining subject is there so we can have something to fall back on. If you have questions, please just throw them in the chat. We'll be happy to address it. What is your opinion on Resence watches? Yes, I keep hearing a lot about them. It's not a brand that I really looked into. I know they're Belgian, and I know they have a very different and kind of a poetic expression of time. But George, you will have to educate me on them, honestly, because I don't even know what to look for in terms of a model, in terms of what is desirable, what is not in that particular universe. So if you give us a little bit of guidance, a little bit of a suggestion.
So yeah, this is Lord's channel, so I know that he is highly sensitive to not being completely educated on the subject, but then going out and talking about it. But these watches, as time moves on, the
Mhm.
whole display moves around the dial in a planetary sort of motion. From what I understand, it's actually a basic ETA 2824 that drives that whole thing underneath. And to me, it's pretty awesome the way that they've been able to create something completely different. Um, and it's very smartwatchy, if that makes sense. The
In
way
terms
that they display
of,
everything.
right? In terms of the aesthetic, you mean that they
Yeah, yeah.
watch? Yeah.
And I'm not so in tune with all the intricacies and changes in all the cases amongst the versions, but as far as I'm concerned, very cool. Can I afford it? No, I'd have to get a second mortgage on the house, but
Yeah.
horologically interesting, right?
Even know what the price range is. That's why I hesitated, right? I would have to read up on them,
Mm-hmm.
and something about them did not intrigue me. But I know George usually has his finger on the pulse when it comes to looking into certain brands, and I know he has an incredible collection. So if he's interested in them, there must be something about them. But for sure, I don't know what that is.
That's wild, is what that is. And I believe a lot of them, if not all of them, are the cases are oil filled, and I believe that's to
Yeah.
facilitate all of this motion there. As DP just called out, yes, they are oil filled. No, must be expensive to service. Yeah.
George Voorhees says actually Type 8, which is the watch on the screen now, if I'm not mistaken, is almost 12.5K USD.
Nice.
Yeah. So not the level of a second mortgage, perhaps, but it's still quite a bit. Like all Resonance watches, Type 8 is set and wind by turning its case back. The watch is ambidextrous design. Well, that's a very interesting element. I didn't know this. Combined with its streamlined shape and lightweight, make for a comfortable experience on all wrists. Right, because it doesn't have a crown, right? It's
Yeah.
set and wound on the case back. That's right. Well,
And you don't really have lugs. You have like a hood where the strap kind of goes underneath.
right. That's pretty sleek as well. I love the buckle. That looks like a very classy belt buckle.
Hyper minimalist.
Yeah. And it kind of has from this perspective, it kind of has a UFO look.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what it is. There's something inside of me that just kind of is drawn to these really weird things. Is it something that I'll buy? No. It's okay for me to like it and to love it and not marry it, right? It's
Sure.
that's part of this whole love of watches.
Look, I mean, for me, here's the thing. There's so much in the horological world, in the world of watches, so many Kickstarter brands, micro brands, crowdfunded brands that do the same concept over and over, their own version of the integrated bracelet watch, their own version of the dive watch. I'm fed up to hear, Eric, honestly. So if there's a company that wants to do something different, come up with a different expression of time, do a unique design that's truly their own. Look, here you have a watch that has a very different kind of strap integration, that has no crown, and a wholly unique system of setting and winding the watch on the case back. I can't hate on that. It's to me this is great for the world of watches, because we need innovation. We don't need the same tired things over and over, unless of course it's Rolex, in which case we just kneel and bow in front of the king. Whatever Rolex does is right. Whatever everyone else does is unacceptable.
And light a candle and take it and kneel.
Exactly.
No, I'm right there with you. I spent 10 years of my life working in the manufacturing sector, albeit I worked on the marketing side of things. I was a kid. When I was 2 years old, I was disassembling my toys because I wanted to know how they worked. I wasn't breaking them, I was disassembling them. And my mother was just torn to shreds. Like, what is this kid doing? So I'm always of that mind of, wow, you know, who thought of this? And always have a high interest for that.
That was my late uncle, whom I actually didn't even have the pleasure to meet because he had MS and he passed away before I was even born. But I keep hearing these stories about him that especially up until his late teens, he used to take apart every single watch, pocket and wristwatch that he would find at home, and he wasn't able to put them back together. And he turned a lot of things to junk this way, apparently. And I was afraid to even ask what kind of watches they were, because this was a guy who had very expensive taste. So hopefully nothing, just junk.
Time is Money says, very cool watch, just not on my wrist, LOL. That's a lot of the watch world for me, to be honest. I mean, it's okay for me to like them and just not like them for me, you know. And these things are very expensive, so there's some degree of pouring yourself into it when it comes time to throwing the money down. You know?
Pun intended, because the dials are liquid filled. But yeah, anyway, George, thank you for sharing this, because at the end of the day, yeah, I'm just going to repeat that small point. In the world of watches, people kick the same dead horse, reiterate the same types of watches and models over and over again. Resence seems to be doing something original, something that is truly their own, and more power to them. And if you do get one, please do show it off to us. I would very much appreciate it, because the marketing is great. The shots they have there, those are great, but to see it in real life and in motion would be something quite different. Guys, thank you for being here. Thank you for your presence and support. If you haven't upvoted yet, please hit that like button. Every little bit helps. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers. So if you haven't subscribed yet, jump on board, tell all your friends, and we'll get there quite soon, I'm hoping. But in the meantime, before I reach monetization, if you want to encourage me to create new and original content, I just took a little dive to take Hodinkee up to task for blurring the line between editorial and advertorial. So if you want me to do more of that kind of content and other watch-related content, you can encourage me by contributing on PayPal, lordhellespontv@gmail.com. That's lordhellespontv@gmail.com. And I also have a Cash App too, which is $LHVVV.
Amen. I laughed when I saw that video. DP says, good evening, gentlemen. Good evening. Good evening. Morning. If you're in Bali.
Good morrow.
It's
in Bali, George is usually at this time either taking his breakfast or finished with his breakfast.
That's awesome.
Or maybe brunch time. I don't know. Let's see, what time is it in Bali?
11 something, maybe pushing 12.
11:29.
There you go.
Great.
But yeah, I laughed at your video because, having worked in marketing for 19 years now, I never had an article published or a cover story or anything in any publication where I wasn't also advertising. Never happened. Never happened. Sent out press releases to huge lists of people, contacts, and publications in multiple industries. Is it going to get picked up? Well, are you running ads in their publication? Yes, no.
Yes.
If
Well, look, absolutely, Eric. The here's the problem. They tricked us with the internet. You realize this, right? Because they promised us the internet is a democratized platform. This is new media. It's going to be different than printed media. That we will have a multiplicity of voices, independent voices, and we are going to run it differently than what we did in print media. Of course, I know that, like, when you pick up today GQ, or even the more, like Revolution, which is like the hip horological magazine, right? Or The Rake, which is the hip menswear magazine. I know most of it is advertising, right? Whether it comes with good copy or not, whether it comes with quality content or not, that's a secondary question. But in the internet, they tricked us. They promised us more democracy. They promised us more transparency. They promised us accountability, and they have so far delivered very little. So you're absolutely right. Maybe I'm just naive. Maybe I'm stupid. Maybe I'm just clueless to ask this. But I think for most people who are digital born, so to speak, they're not even aware of what you are describing. And they're not even aware that Hodinky just had a $40 million injection from LVMH, from an investment group led by LVMH.
Well, don't be too hard on yourself, because the full disclosure didn't come until you scrolled all the way to the bottom, where they pretty much had the the links throughout the rest of the site. You had to dig all the way down there to really reveal that, right?
Small print, literally. They're doing the bare minimum for to cover their tracks legally, but the ethical question remains, of course.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
George, going for a few drinks and lunch. Have one for us as well, George. Thanks for dropping by. Guys, by the way, the link to StreamYard is pinned, but I'm going to post it a few times as well. If you want to drop by, if you want to join the panel, always, the party is more fun. The more, the merrier.
Please hop on, guys. Somebody has to take my slot here in the next 27 minutes.
Yes, because it's hitting midnight, of course.
That's right. And it's a weeknight.
That's true.
We do this for the whores, the horologies.
So what other watches can we recommend as a first watch, beyond the usual suspects?
That's a good question, and I haven't had time on this stream to dig through the annals of the mind to pull anything up. Gosh, can I change the subject?
Of course.
Pull that card.
What did you have in mind?
We were talking about Tag Heuer, right? And
yes, that's right.
So, like I said, I'm 42 years young. I can remember when I was probably 10 to 12, going through jewelry stores, watch stores, etc., with my parents and family, and seeing Tag Heuer. And at the time, Tag Heuer was selling a bunch of quartz shitters for 300, $400, stainless steel dive watches, various color dials. And for whatever reason, that didn't impress me at a young age, because everybody else was doing the same thing, right? I could walk over to the Seiko case and see the same thing. back then in those days. So I just don't think that what I saw at a young age impressed me in a positive manner. And so for me, I think despite now being older and understanding Hoyer's whole history, what I witnessed and experienced and remember from tag back in those days. So that would have been like late 80s through early 90s, Gulf War period. That's what's in my brain, is that when I see this stuff, I'm like, tag, oh yeah, they're the ones that made the $300 quart shitters and red dial faces and all. And and I know that's wrong, right? But that's the impression. So I think our opinions are formed by those types of things, right? In a lot of ways, that's the minefield that these brands have to tread through as they move through the years and try to appeal to different uh, fan bases and whatnot. So I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I was just gonna, before you said that, I was gonna say, oh, Ozzy, welcome back, man.
Hi there. I don't know if you can hear me because I can't hear you very well.
I
Just
can-
let me play around in the background here while you guys continue.
Okay. I was gonna say, as a chronograph guy, you might appreciate at least a vintage Hoya Monaco.
Oh, and I absolutely do. I absolutely do. I think just when people say, "What do you think a Tag Heuer?" Right?
Yeah, and this is the reissue they did, of course, which I think is a beautiful execution, and it is a proper McQueen watch, and I love these aesthetics. Honestly, I've always had a soft spot for two registered chronographs. Since I'm not a chronograph guy, I actually appreciate less clutter on the face. And listen, they have their classics. I appreciate the heritage they have in terms of sports watches, and they did, they did have decent aqua racers too through time. I'm not going to deny that they had their whole line of I think it was called Link, that had an interesting bracelet.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, like you said, our opinions are formed early. My early image of tag that I really hated was these billboards with Leonardo DiCaprio holding watches like this rather than wearing it on his Viking wrist. I detested that. Even as I should have been 10 to 12 years old when Leonardo DiCaprio was the face, and perhaps the only face, or at the very forefront of Tag Heuer marketing campaigns, but it was always him holding watches like this, and I just hated that. I thought that was very strange, very pretentious, and very out of place, even in an advertisement. So I don't know.
Wouldn't dare put it on his wrist.
Right. I mean, I don't know what message they were broadcasting with it. It was just a very, very strange experience for me. Thomas says, unique and contrarian was the essence of pre-Vendôme Panerai. It was funny, 1996, time zone, watch commander community. You're capturing that now. Same essence, simply watch friends. Okay. Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I'm here for the watch talk primarily, as much as I bring out the theatricality sometimes. And as far as I'm not subject to anti-Semitic attacks, and as long as someone else is not being attacked racially, as long as I'm not shoved stupid shitter watches down my throat because they supposedly represent some piece of history. As long as you spare me all of that, I'll be just fine with talking about watches. So thank you. That I take that as a compliment, Thomas. Time is Money says, I remember in the 80s, Movado and Tag were very popular.
Absolutely. I mean, I think through the mid 90s, you had rappers talking about Movado the way that they talk about these other brands nowadays. I mean, these things were very entrenched in popular culture. And I, on that note, I guess you have to say they did a good job of marketing them because they really took a foothold.
They, vintage Movado actually from 70s, they have some beautiful, beautiful chronographs. Let me see if this hits the right spot for anyone. I'm making a mess here. Let's see.
Aussie Expat says, nope, StreamYard just doesn't seem to work on Android. Audio out is always to speaker.
Speaking of triple calendars and moon phases, there we go. You have a 70s vintage Movado chronograph in that Zenith El Primero revival style that became.
Check out that case and check out those links.
Mm-hmm. And you have a 2-register chrono. You have your triple calendar. You have your moon phase, and a very unique design, kind of an integrated bracelet look, which you may or may not appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. You have a beautiful Movado with a movement that, if I'm not mistaken, is built on the El Primero base.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep.
I like it. I dig it. I think it's dope.
And there were a few other Movado chronographs that I had seen that were more, more in tune with classical chronograph design. Let's see if I can find those. Okay. I found the mother lode, so to speak, because I remember reading this from a blog to watch. The 7 vintage watches that changed how I see Movado.
Thomas Broadbent in the comments says Movado bought Zenith out of failure bankruptcy.
Yeah, right. Look, they have their world timer here.
Wow.
They have the nice vintage looking 2-register chronograph.
Very different from what people think today if you say the word Movado.
Mm-hmm. The triple calendar with the Breguet numerals.
Yeah,
I mean,
that.
and the teardrop lugs.
Mm-hmm.
If this said Patek instead of Movado here, imagine
That's right.
how funny it would. Yeah, check it out, guys. They're already trending up and up. And if if the market is in fact going into a slight correction, these might be, if you're into that aesthetic, of course, these might be some interesting grabs in the next few months and years. Great value to be found in 70s Movado, especially in chronographs, particularly.
Beautiful.
Yeah, just
Yeah, it's like, do you want this or do you want to watch with a black face and a little fake diamond at 12?
right.
Ouch.
Yeah, well, it depends, but yeah, we are talking about very different budgets there, and look, I mean, who can say no to something like this, especially if you can find a beautiful example. This is by the way a 14 karat gold case, so it's not plated, it's not something like that. I don't think, at least. Let me double check and see if it says. I remember when I first read it. Yeah, and it's the thing is, of course, it's of course quite a wearable size too, because I think it's like somewhere between 38.5, maybe 37.5. Yeah, amazing.
Absolutely. Hunt those down. They are dying by the day. They're disappearing, I guarantee you.
Thomas says Zenith Movado Astronic, which was the first model we showed, lobster band. It's one of the greatest watches, super grand, complicated. The fit is great. Yes, and that was, that was a peach of a watch. And that was just a random eBay listing that I found. Yes, it was 6,500, so not exactly cheap, but I'm sure you can, if you really scourge for them, I'm sure you can find even better deals. Great. Eric read this already, but Movado bought Zenith out of failure, bankruptcy. Time is money, says. Very impressive. Movado before Quartz was world class. Absolutely.
Lord, I'll be back in just a second. I got a kitty cat that's going ape shit out there.
Of course. Take your take your time. Thomas recommends that we just grab him. Absolutely. Yeah. Since there's still time, guys, again, the StreamYard link is pinned, but if you would like to join the panel, here it is again. You can just click and jump on. In the meantime, if you have been watching the show and enjoying the content, please upvote. Every single vote counts. Helps me gain more exposure. Spread the word. Help me reach 1K subscribers. Help me reach 1,000 subscribers. Check out my other videos. All of this is immense help on my path to monetization. Until then, if you want to encourage me in creating more content, new and original content, like the Royal Oak 50th birthday video that I did, or the recent video that I did on the blurring of editorials and advertorials in the new media that we have covering the world of watches, you can always consider a PayPal contribution at lordhellespuntv@gmail.com, lordhellespuntv@gmail.com. I also have a Cash App, which is $LHVVV. I really appreciate it, guys. And thank you for subscribing XR Money. Every single subscriber means a lot to me as we are expanding the channel, as we are moving forward. Bert K says, is this the same Movado as the minimalist museum watch. Well, what is that minimalist museum watch? I'm not sure if I get the reference. I'm just Bobby Googling it now, Bert K. But if you are saying that, oh, you mean like, is this the same brand? Yeah, absolutely. This is the same brand. This is Movado before the quartz crisis hit. This is Movado before they transitioned into making those sorts of watches. They used to be one of the most respectable, reliable watchmakers. Yeah. Thomas Broadbent says, in fact, yes, the watchmaker at Zenith hid all the tooling from the liquidators, hid all of it in a barn. He negotiated with Movado during the quartz bloodbath. Pardon me. But yes, that was the same Movado as the rest of them. Let me get a drink, guys. I know it's not the best time now that my co-host is gone, but I need it. I think it may, the famous auctioneer, Aurel Bax, has a Movado in his collection, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see. I think he did a series called Bax to Basics. Very cheesy pun, but great, really, really great series that he done with Philips watches, of course, which is the brand, the auction house that he is where he's heading the watches, the watch department, and I think in one of the episodes, this could be episode 4, I think, that is titled, yes, that is titled A Watch That Could Fetch 100 Times Its Value, by which he specifically means that, if that watch, the same watch, was called Patek instead of Movado, which is the one you see here. Right, again, you have a triple calendar, no moon phase this time, beautiful Dauphine hands, seconds on the subdial, date, day, month, and of course, as an auctioneer, he would himself advise to his customers to first and foremost look for condition. And it seems in this one, he heeded his own advice. Look at the sharpness of those lugs. All the factory finishing is, of course, intact. The dial itself is in beautiful condition. In fact, in this particular model, you can really appreciate those applied Breguet numerals. It's really the perfect watch, right? We were talking about dress watches earlier. I'm sure, if you have up until 9K budget, like Loose Tooth asked, I know it's very niche territory, right? I think you are in the right mindset there, trying to lead your friend into brands like IWC, JLC, and others. But for the watch nerds like us, something like this could be a beautiful choice. It will probably require some rummaging. It will probably require some. Welcome back, Eric.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, this is the auctioneer Aurel Bax's own triple calendar Movado watch, which is in impeccable condition, of course.
That is stunning. That's a Patek Movado.
Basically, except it would be 100 times as much if it were instead of Movado. Yeah, just
I love it.
perfect. We were talking about dress watches you could get under 9K earlier. If you have enough time to rummage through a lot of different examples and find the perfect one, here's one. I'm sure you can do something like this under 7K even, and it's beautiful. Thomas says Movado could not sell Zenith in USA because Zenith was as a TV and electronic manufacturer. The modified jewel count 36 to avoid the luxury tax. They modified the jewel count to 36 to avoid luxury tax. Disclosure: I have one dual Zenith Movado marks. Beautiful. Time is money. Beautiful example right there. Again, Aurel Bax of Philips watches. The guy has great collection, of course. Since so much gets on his desk, but great taste too to pick something like this into his personal collection. Outstanding. That's a watch. Fonts, numerals are wonderful. Yeah, everything just screams classy, quality dress watch.
Yeah, for something of that age, you have to wonder what conditions it was kept under to be presenting like that here and now. Yeah, that's impeccable condition.
Yeah, I think this is some of the watches he shows in this series, which is named with the terrible pun "Bax to Basics," but is an incredible glimpse into Aurel Bax himself as a collector and enthusiast. And again, he's that's what I really love about this guy. He's genuinely excited about watches every time you see him, especially when he talks about his own collection here. It's really a treat. And a lot of the watches actually he has in that collection are very crisp. Again, he doesn't have problems of access, of course, but still something as unusual as this, it's not hyped at all, right? Not many people care about vintage Movado.
That's a good thing for everybody watching, thinking that looks sweet. I'd like to pick one up.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of the goal of this little runt of the litter kind of channel, that we can educate the at most a dozen people watching us at the time, and actually help them in making more informed choices and consider all the options that they actually have, especially when they go into the secondary market, and especially when they look beyond Rolex.
Timely opportunity to tell everyone to like and subscribe.
Absolutely. And
smash those buttons. You guys know what to do.
Thank you, guys.
Well, Lord, I have to get going for the evening, but I want to thank you for being the most gracious host and giving me some airtime on these topics. I think it's fantastic. Again, I've had a watch strapped to my wrist first in toy fashion at age 2, and here I am today. And I think it's something that's been the constant in my life through all that I've been through. What has been the one thing that hasn't changed? There's been a wristwatch strapped to my arm, and so I appreciate it, definitely.
Hey man, it's always great having you, and thank you for your contribution to the channel. I know this is only the second time, but I hope you will be coming back. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. Have a good evening, or morning, or afternoon if you're in Bali.
Take care.
Peace, guys.
Good night. No, actually, I did not address that. Corrado Galizia. Not sure if you have addressed this watch yet, but have you looked at the Omega CK859 re-edition? This is actually the new sector dial Omega that just came up. We have talked quite a bit about this watch in the streams earlier, in other streams, but I like it so much that I have no problem bringing it up again. This, once more, would fall right into that price range that Loose Tooth had recommended to his friend for a dress watch. I think I love these bridges. I love the way they're decorated. I think the manual coaxial is a great movement. And I love all the elements actually of that dial, right? Because a lot of times, let me put it this way, a lot of times when you see too much on the dial, especially on the outer dial, a lot of times it is really to hide the fact that there is a smaller movement inside the watch than is appropriate for that particular case. Here, this is not the case, right? You know, they have actually revived a particular kind of sector dial design, and that's important to this watch's aesthetic. I think this is one watch where that particular shade of tan leather is entirely appropriate. I can certainly see this watch also on a navy blue strap, or maybe a shade lighter than navy blue. Some shade of dark blue would be a great strap for it. I can certainly see it, with a black strap, black leather strap, maybe even a black crocodile strap that could, again, look great. I love the heat blued hands. I love the seconds on the sub dial. I think the Arabic numbers go extremely well with the sector dial concept. There's just so much to love about a watch like this. And new, of course, they are going for 6,500 US dollars. And I think it's a limited of some sort. It says numbered edition. Sometimes I don't know what they mean with things like this when it comes to Omega. So I do apologize, but I have a feeling that this is going to be one of those watches that will sell pretty well because it offers something unique. It offers something new to the market. And I certainly appreciate it. I know the watch already has a lot of fans on these streams in the Archieverse, so I'm pretty sure this will sell well. Yes, it even has the vintage Omega logo. That's great observation. Time is money. And Thomas says, never seen this before. Okay, I'm glad Corrado brought it up. It's a lovely watch. Terrific sector, crown, and lugs. Yes, everything seems very well proportioned and appropriate in this watch. Corrado says, I would love to see what it would look like in yellow gold. Yeah. I hope, maybe after this edition, and depending on its success, they might bring it out in precious metal as well. Could be interesting. Cordovan or suede too, flexible look. Absolutely, it can look great in all sorts of different different watches. JLC sector dial, yes, that's a watch that I really like as well. This is automatic, but it does have a simpler sector dial and the syringe hands, which contributes to the vintage aesthetic. It has a date aperture at 3 o'clock. It has actually a gold JLC rotor, which has fallen out of a lot of the steel JLC watches below a certain price segment at retail in the newer models. So this is a great watch to look at actually and consider in the secondary market. It's from 2017. They have retained their value quite well, I have to say. You can possibly find master control sector, let's say. You can possibly find it for a little cheaper, but not that much. Let's see, we have one at 7,500. So slightly more expensive. This example being sold out of UK was a little more than that, in fact. And then yeah, so we can certainly see it trending right between $7,500, $8,500 US. So a little more than what the Omega sector dial CK 859 sells for, but certainly another watch to consider for those who appreciate those aesthetics, the sector dial, and everything else that goes with it. Of course, in this case, we have an automatic movement, right? As you could, of course, tell by that beautiful gold weight for the rotor. Whereas with the CK859 Omega sector dial, we have, of course, manual wound, coaxial movement. So two very nice options there. Pardon me. All understated classic class. Yes. Is the dial on the Omega silver? I don't think so. Let me double check, but I think it's some shade of white, actually. Maybe off white. At least that's how it looks on the publicity photos there. Here you can see it. The one on the JLC, Jaeger-LeCoultre Master Control sector dial from 2017, that's a silver dial, like a bicolor silver dial. This here is an off-white dial. So different color schemes, slightly different aesthetic. The JLC is plainer and has an automatic movement. This dial is a little busier, a little more in your face, but you might actually prefer and enjoy that. And this has a manual movement. JLC also has the date at 3 o'clock. Do I think that's a Casafagliano strap? No, it wasn't. Casafagliano is usually the Cordovan straps. More or less, I'm not going to make a general statement because I'm sure people have put Casafagliano straps on other JLCs as well. But I think in terms of standard issue stuff, they usually came with the reversos, right, for that shared polo heritage, especially. But in that case, when we were looking at that JLC Master Control sector dial, let me pull up that example again from Chrono. I think it was this one from the UK. It really, to me, I don't know if it's an original JLC strap, but it has an aesthetic that's very similar to the Hermes Epsom leather, right? Their calf skin with hatch grain. You see, Cordovan would be very smooth and usually quite rich in color, whatever color it is. But this is kind of taupe, maybe. Looks great actually with a wash like this. I'm actually wearing a strap that has a similar kind of texture, similar kind of grain on it, so you can see. Right, and I do enjoy contrast stitching. You know, summer is coming, so I will probably change the bezel insert as well to the bicolor one from the faded bronze, and I think we'll be in good shape. I might still once every so often switch back to the two-tone Jubilee, Jingly Jangly Jubilee, which is entirely my aesthetic, which I do miss, but in the meantime, I really don't mind having it on a leather strap. Have I ever? Okay, look at Rolex quartz. Yes, the oyster quartz is actually could be interesting finds, interesting pickups at this point in time. Of course, the glass ceiling on that was recently broken, as you know, when Michael Cain's own personal oyster quartz precedence was sold at the Sotheby's auction. I will post the link of the video that I did to celebrate that sale and talk a little bit about if it might have any effects in the secondary market. In this case, including the buyer's premium, Sir Michael Cain's oyster quartz was sold for a whopping $165,000 US. And this was, of course, the highest amount for which a quartz Rolex watch went on an auction. But of course, in the secondary market, when you look at certain examples, whether we're talking about Datejust oyster quartzes, which are, I mean, look at that. I think the oyster quartz oyster bracelet, the integrated oyster bracelet, it's just a great look. It's just beautiful. And I've mentioned this a few times before on this stream, on this channel, that I find it very odd when people tell me that quartz watches don't have any soles, because after all, these are machines. Of course they don't have any soul. At the end of the day, it's the emotion you inject into it. It's the way you make it part of your life. It's the spirit that you breathe into the watch that gives it a soul, right? So whether it's quartz, whether it's a toy watch, whether it's a vintage Movado or a hype sports watch from Patek or Rolex you just got in the secondary market, no watch in and of itself has a soul. It's up to you to give it one. All right, so these are trending slightly above their mechanical counterparts, basically, at this point in time. This one comes with a great presentation box, no papers, unfortunately, but nicely preserved example. Rolex does still service these watches. The original OC has the President version that he recently got back from service, if I'm not mistaken. But some great examples. I'm not a huge fan of the execution of the Jubilee bracelet in the integrated version, but when it comes to the oyster and when it comes to the presidential bracelet in 19018, it's really a beauty to behold. Again, you have the contours of that case. The bracelet seems to be in decent condition, of course, with some stretch, which may be predictable. Lovely Italian day wheel there, which I certainly appreciate. Great watches. These were of course so much cheaper before everything went crazy and everything Rolex became incredibly unavailable and out of reach suddenly. But it's really great. Thomas says, speaking of soul, Michael Caine's restaurant Langan's in London is a must. Yeah, anything associated with Michael Caine is quite an experience for me. I just adore this guy as an actor, and really admire him as a man as well, because once again, I don't necessarily agree with everything he says about politics, about human matters, but he's a principled man, and he stands behind what he believes in, and that's always something to be respected. In White Gold, yeah, wow, those are even more rare. I wonder if we can find. Let's check out Chrono 24 for 19018 in White Gold. I wonder if they would have one, and I would love to see how they trend. No, none on Chrono 24, but let's see. That's a standard. Jesus. Don't even look at the price. Ah, that looks distinguished. Yeah, the bracelet is in decent shape. A little bit of a stretch on there, but look how amazing it is in White Gold. And remember all those examples of the oyster quartz datechests you have just seen in steel. Of course, White Gold is still a white metal, but has this beautiful warmth to it that certainly even shines through in the pictures. Beautiful. Unacceptable price point, no matter what. Of course, I'm just being stupid. White Gold would end with 9, of course, rather than 8. My bad. Now we should be able to find a little more, even on Chrono. Look at this. Beautiful. German days. Factory diamonds on the dial. That looks like $1 million. Even with the monogram on the case back. Of course, price upon request. Price upon request. But we do have one in the United Arab Emirates that's priced right under 30K USD. Italian date wheel, or day wheel, I should say. Beautiful condition. Nice, very nice. Oh, sorry guys, I messed up when I was following this. I didn't actually share it on appropriate screen. Okay, let's try this again. Amateur hour. There we go. This was the one I was showing at first. And Time is Money was saying about those earlier leather boxes that Rolex should go back to them. Why not? But I wouldn't bet on it. A lot of the luxury watch brands are actually cutting down on those costs. You know, the Patek boxes have fallen out of quality. The JLC boxes have fallen out of quality. The Rolex ones, certainly, you might say that, especially when it comes to the prestige models and how they were presented at retail. It's all fallen down. Thomas Broadbent says one of the greatest movies, The Man Who Would Be King. Absolutely. Before the wacky, they were 10K. Yeah, 10K and under. In fact, Time is Money. Amazing piece. Broadbent's comments about those boxes: sweet class, smelling 1978 leather. Hey, that's an Archie Luxury signature. You don't want to steal the shtick, but yeah, when you have anything leather on a live stream, you gotta smell it. You gotta take a whiff. This was the other model I was looking at, and there's one 19019 that's with the blue dial here. And I think it's less than stellar. It's in less than stellar condition, hence the blurry and distant photographs. But hey, again, consumer advocacy being at the forefront here. Even when you see something like this, it is your right. If you're still interested in the watch, if you have not yet run away, send them an email, send them a message through the system, and ask for more pictures, ask for better pictures, and see how it works. Thomas Broadbent says, I was thinking about the leather in the Jag. Oh my God. Yeah. That smell in a vintage car is so amazing and so unique that there's so many fragrance companies, as you know, who try to replicate that sort of feel. Oh, the new 222, that's also amazing. I love it. What I think about the new 222, again, not necessarily the kind of watch I imagine on my wrist, although perhaps, why not? But certainly, if someone remade Scarface today and reimagined Tony Montana for our day, I can certainly see him wearing this Vacheron Constantin Historique 222. And this is a still from the video that Revolution did from Watches and Wonders. And of course, it's a 37 millimeter case with an integrated bracelet, so it can actually be a great size for unisex as well. Here you see Waco wearing the watch, and there you see his woman collaborator wearing the watch as well. And it's just beautiful in each case. And as much as I appreciate the stainless steel look in these 70s Janta designed or Janta inspired integrated bracelet steel sports watches, that's what I first imagined. That's what comes to my mind first. But hey, executed in full yellow gold with champagne colored dial, that's a great look too. That's a very classic look for a dress watch of a certain caliber, of a certain weight, and of a certain pizzazz. yeah, when you put it on, the perspective changes. Absolutely, it will most certainly wear bigger. Um, Guys, we're just hitting the 2-hour mark. If you have been with us from the beginning, thank you for your presence and support. If you haven't upvoted yet, hit that like button, spread the word, subscribe if you haven't already. It really helps. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers, so even if you tell about it to a friend, it helps me a great deal. Every single subscriber is really valuable to me, so I really, really appreciate you. The link is pinned there. I will post it a few times more. If you want to jump on, this is as good of a time as any. If you want to ask me any questions or bring up topics, feel free to put them in the chat as well. You're always welcome to involve yourself. We were initially talking about what you would recommend to a friend who asked your advice for a first watch, right? For an only watch, as it were. Watches right under 3.5K in US dollars. And we already came up with a lot of different suggestions. We also talked a lot about dress watches that were right above that budget, but still under 10K. And that was also a very fruitful conversation. So if you're interested in any of that, feel free to go before. In the meantime, again, check out my other videos. I have put a lot of content on some value propositions in the older generation of Vacheron Constantin chronographs and even sports watches such as the Royal Eagle. I have made a video on some of the value propositions, relatively speaking, in the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak market, on the secondary market. I've made a dedicated video for the 50th birthday of Audemars Piguet Royal Oak, which was on April 15th, 1972. That's the birthday of that watch. We celebrated its 50th just recently, so that was a very nice video. And I've recently done also a little bit of an exploration where the line between editorial and advertorial is blurred in the coverage of watch outlets, where they also act as a retailer and where they also act as an advertising arm of a multinational global conglomerate. Yes, to avoid confusion, by the way, of course, 222 is, you might say, having come even after Nautilus and about 5 years after Gerard Janta's Royal Oak, you might say 222 was inspired by Gerard Janta, but it was actually designed by Jörg Haschek. So it is its own thing, and it has been worked and reworked as the overseas line, which I also appreciated and still appreciate to a certain deal in the recent generation. But I really loved the earlier generation of chronographs they had, which were really a great steal just 3-4 years ago, before everything went crazy. And of course, when the new generation overseas took off, that earlier generation of overseas chronographs that were really unique and quirky in their own way also went absolutely crazy. We can take a look at them in just a second, but I want to check what Thomas is saying. Back to Jonta and the Nautilus, the Zenith Movado Astronic 1970 case shape was the first, even before the Royal Oak. Yes, it does have that aesthetic of a kind of integrated case. We just looked at this, Zenith El Primero powered triple date moon phase 70s Movado watch that was called Astronic. So you can see it again if you would like to take a peek earlier in the video. That's a great find. That's still a great deal and a very unique aesthetic, especially if you're into the newer Zenith El Primero revivals. That could be a great addition to anyone's collection. I would look for first year Panerai Marina Basic, white or black. Yes, that could be great as well. The band and integration then is superb. Yeah, before I actually bring on the overseas chronograph, I'll just share that Astronic, right? And this is just the eBay listing that didn't even take me all that much time or effort to find, because I was looking for something specific, right? Because I knew what I was looking for. But you see that sort of integrated look, bracelet that is still in decent condition. You have a beautiful 2-register chronograph, moon phase, triple date, great watch, very useful complication, great aesthetic if you like it. The seller accepts offers still. It's listed under 7K. I'm sure if you take your time, you can most certainly find a better deal if you are patient. But this is a great example of a great watch that was certainly before its time. It's fantastic. Actually, funny thing, they're still not too bad. Of course, in the most recent generation of them, as you see, they had already pushed the date window between 4 and 5 o'clock and made it a smaller one. But I actually adore the big date display there. And I do prefer the white dial in this one. Just beautiful. This is the one that I really like, because that was when they had upgraded the bracelets, right? The dial, as you see, has the decoration rather than being finished in that satin look. We have the 3 registers of the chronograph in different sizes, right? All 3 different sizes. We have the big date display, the guichet type of date display. We have that bracelet with a better clasp. Of course, no exhibition case back here. And these were literally just half of this price and even a little cheaper. Don't mind it though, right? You know, I think this is still a very good and respectable alternative to this particular generation of chronograph they have. And the added bonus is actually, I do love this white dial. This has its own unique look, right? This has its own character. So if you actually like it, you don't have to feel like you're settling for anything, and you are still getting quite a watch that is not really trying to be something else. Time is money. Good night, Lord. Watch people. Almost 1 a.m. here on the East Coast. Man, thank you so much for hanging on and staying with us. Time is money. I really appreciate you. You really pushed us through. So good night to you, and I hope I see you in the next stream. Thomas, they're so well built, bulletproof, recommend handling watch before purchase. Yes, this was for the earlier Movado Astronic that Thomas recommended that we look at again for the integrated bracelet and case design, and for the beautiful triple date moon phase complication that was combined with a chronograph. Imagine, I mean, you don't even find that kind of complication in a lot of contemporary watches, and when you do, the prices are sky high. It's usually not executed in steel, unless you're looking at brands like JLC and IWC, which have done actually a great deal to democratize some of the Grand Complication type of watches and offer it at a more acceptable price point for most customers. But yeah, that was a great alternative. And Thomas is saying, do you like the generation before, meaning the overseas? Absolutely. That was the one that I really liked, right? This is when they first came out, right? So you have like a smaller sub-seconds here. You still have the big date, 3 registered, different bracelets, different clasp. But then when they had renewed that particular generation, as you see in the example right here, in the 4910, you have something like this, which again, it's unique. It has its own character. It has the 3 sub-dials, which are all in slightly different size. The big date display. The bracelet's still very similar to the most recent 3rd generation overseas, except of course it doesn't have that quick release mechanism where you're also supplied with 3 different straps. But hey, this is still a great deal compared to the most recent generation, which you can't get at any rate, right? At the boutique or at a lot of the retailers. This, I think, was a limited edition model. It looks quite nice as well on the rubber too. But yes, 49150 was a great model, coming right before the third generation, right before the introduction of the third generation. Different bezel, again. They have updated the bracelet a little bit, introduced that quick release mechanism. The date window was already moved and made smaller, moved between 4 and 5 o'clock and made smaller, of course. But never mind. This is a watch that has its own character, that has its own aesthetic, and that deserves a place on the table, so to speak. And they can still be gotten right under 25, or right around 25, let's say. Okay, 25,000 US dollars. Still a lot of money, but also, comparatively speaking, a great bargain with respect to the recent generation of overseas chronographs. Vacheron Perpetual is the tops, other than 222, my favorite. Yes, I mean, look, I actually adore Vacheron Constantin as a brand. I like a lot of their complicated watches as well. Their manual chronographs, love them. I love the earlier Vacheron Constantin Malt manual chrono, and the manual chrono with the Perpetual. Again, I dedicated an entire video to these. So check it out if you actually like it. Check it out if you would like to spread the word about them. Big Mac.
Oh shit! I totally forgot to change all that stuff.
You weren't planning to do a Mike the Snake impression this time?
No, I totally forgot to change it all over.
How you doing, man?
Oh, pretty good. I'm just I got nothing going on here for tonight. Everything's kind of settled down finally, so should be able to go back to a normal schedule.
Nice, man. I do think, you know, I meant it when I said that pic you had on your Instagram was amazing. Can I pull that up with your permission?
Yeah, sure.
Look at that. Yeah, big respect, man. You wear your watches, enjoy them in good health, and look at that. It's like a commercial, man. If you were putting your lamb to sleep tomorrow, you would be wearing a Rolex.
A Rolex. There's actually a method to the madness, Lord. Can I let you in on a little secret?
Tell me more.
So, like I said, over half of the girls that work at the Rolex boutique actually follow me on my Instagram. So, to prove that I'm not a flipper and that I enjoy my timepieces, I wear my Rolexes as frequently as I can in the most bizarre places that you wouldn't wear one. Truth be told, Lord, as soon as I took this photo off, I pulled white gloves out of my jacket and, put the Rolex back into a little box, travel pouch. I just did. It's all for show. It's all for show, just to get them to sell me a back girl at retail.
Did you put back your powder wig on as well?
Yeah, that's a must. I threw a little extra powder in there so it doesn't dry out. Then put it back on the stand.
Fantastic. Yeah, man. But look, on the other hand, okay, even if you say this is for show, I know you basically destroyed your Milgauss earlier in a similar situation. So I know you wear your watches on a daily basis. I know you enjoy them. It's not just for the gram. We all know this, Joe. You don't have to play it down.
No, I mean you're 100% right, but I think that's what gives me a little credibility with my girls because they know I dump a fair amount of watches.
Mhm.
Like they know that Tudor Blackberry 36 that I bought from them, what was it, like last December? They know that's gone. Like it was gone within a week. But I think it just gives me that small amount of cred when they see me wearing Rolexes in a very, like I said, unusual, some would probably deem it harsh and abusive conditions. So I think that kind of makes them a little bit more comfortable in selling any watch to me at this point.
I hope so, and I know you want a GMT Master 2, so hopefully you'll get it. Hopefully you will get exactly what you want, and get it at retail, so you can flex on Mike the Snake.
Well, I mean, yeah. Well, still, I was having this conversation with Lolex, and the whole conversation of well, all the prices are coming down and whatnot, pieces are becoming more available, and I was talking to Lolex about this, and I said, you know what, the price correction couldn't come at a worse time because the girls asked me that, so they do like every so many months they just kind of do a recap of like, all right, are you still interested in this? What's changed? What do you want? What would you like to add to your wish list? So on and so forth. And one of the girls asked me like, "Are you still interested in the gold Date 836?" And I kind of beat her on the bush. And I said, "Yeah, I still like one, but I think I'm too young for gold. But then again, if one came in, possibly." So I'm always kind of beating around the bush with it. And then they asked me in the back room, and I said, "Of course, absolutely, I still want it." So with the prices kind of shifting and pieces becoming possibly more available, I was telling Lolex, okay, like I'm in the middle. I just started remodeling my old man's house, so I got to do the basement, got to redo like a window, do the lawn, like the landscaping. And I said, like, shit, this shit's adding up pretty fucking quick. I said, I'm gonna get a phone call asking, am I ready to buy that gold Date 836? And then, I'm going to be honest, I'm going to be financially tapped out. I'm going to be fucked.
Yeah, but I know, ever since we first met on these streams, you have been talking about the Tony Soprano special. So, hey, man, I hope you get exactly what you want, whether that's a day date or a Batman GMT.
Right. Well, I was talking to Lolex and I said, like, you know what? Push comes to shove. Here's what I'll do. I'll take a hit on my Speedmaster. Like, I think bottom of the barrel price I could sell it for is 5. Worst case scenario, 4.5. But that would be like really worst. Like I need to sell it within the hour type thing. And then I'd probably trade in my Submariner, which I'd probably get 10, maybe 9.5 for it. Worst case scenario.
Joe. When will you stop? Taking a hit on your watches. Stop losing your shirt over these watches. Take your time.
Well, the sub I overpaid for, so I'm not gonna make money off of that. I mean, I overpaid for my sub, so I'm kind of screwed on that end, anyways.
Okay. That's fine.
The best I can do is, so I remember I talked to the AD that I bought it from up in Minneapolis. And I said, well, if I were to trade it in today, what would you give it to me? He said, he said, I know you take care of your stuff. He said, I'd probably give you 10.5 for it. And I bought it around 11, so it's not that hard of a hit, honestly. The Speedmaster, I'm pretty sure I could pull 5.5 off of it with a little patience.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's just all speculation too. And Rolex is like, he's like, I don't know if I'd sell like both of those watches, just to get a Day-Date 36. And I said, well, Rolex, I said, I overpaid for my sub. You know, it's one thing if I bought it at retail, I'd probably be a little bit more hesitant. The Speedmaster I can always get again. I mean, they're not, you know, for all extents and purposes, they're not hard. You have to be patient for it, but they're not hard. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, I agree with Rolex actually. I mean, I would, to get rid of a sub and Speedmaster to get the Day-Date, you gotta be sure it's exactly what you want. Otherwise, you know, especially getting rid of a sub, for me, you know, I know other people say the same thing about the Speedmaster. Me being really solidly a Rolex fanboy all the way, I think the Submariner is the staple of any collection. So I would not want to give up on that over. Yeah, I wouldn't.
I agree, and I was telling Rolex, I said, I'd buy the sub back essentially. But I would probably just upgrade to the 41 mil, right? So,
yeah,
you know, in a roundabout way, I'm not really losing anything. You know, I'm kind of upgrading, but in a very probably unusual way. Because I mean, I'm probably going to pay what, 16 grand, give or take. Well, maybe not. If prices continue to kind of steadily, maybe not decline, but slowly correct, I could possibly be looking at paying 13.5, 14 for a 41 mil no date sub.
Yeah, Thomas says I would not do that. Maybe I would sell the Speedmaster, but not the sub. But look, I mean, if that AD is worth its salt, and you get a Day-Date from them, they should supply you a sub down the line again. I mean, come on. They should work with you. If you work with them, they should work with you.
Yeah. These girls are fairly nice to me, honestly. They're more than generous when they need to be. Because I remember with my Yachtmaster, like, because I asked the Rolex AD in Minneapolis. I said, how long can you hold a watch for me? I said, can we do a payment plan here? When they had the GMT, because it would have been a spur of the moment type thing. I said, I need to move some money around. He said, oh, I can hold it for 1 week. I'm like, oh shit, that's not a whole lot to, you know, kind of move money around. And then the girls would be like, oh, we can hold it for probably up to 2 months. As long as you continue to show, like, well, as long as you leave a hefty down payment and, you know, kind of show up and make payments, as long as you make, so basically what they do is just throw it on layaway, which is actually pretty damn nice.
This is the Day-Date 36 or 40? 41.
You see, that's the thing. I wanted the 36, but you know what? Call me a delusional fantasist, as Tim Wright would say. But I kind of think Cam's right. I think I should go for the 40 instead. Just in case I don't like it, I can get out of it easy.
Yeah, well, look, 40 is not so bad as a size, actually. I love 36 for dress watches, but and for Datejusts especially, and I don't mind it on the Day-Date. But we have been talking to this Big Mac. Yes, the dress watches should be smaller and more subtle, perhaps, and it's maybe a better fit for a dress watch. But then again, the Day-Date is the kind of dress watch that you want to wear to be obnoxious, to show off. It's a full gold Rolex, for fuck's sake. So if it's a little bigger on your wrist, I don't think that's such a problem. And like you said, if you can't live with it at the end, you'll probably be able to turn around and sell it for even above retail, and then get something that you actually like.
Yeah, absolutely. And I still wish I had that photo. I don't know. I've got it somewhere, but I was offered a gold day-date 40 with champagne dial, not gold, in 40 mil. And I tried it on, and it didn't look half bad. And I remember Tim Wright put it up on his screen. He said, honestly, he said, your wrist is so fucking jacked up. He said, you can pull off the 36 and the 40. Um, so he said, honestly, he said, if I were you, I'd just buy the 40 because it's only like, what is it, like $3,000 difference between the two?
Yeah, it's really, I mean, it's really an aesthetic difference, and it's a difference in fit. It's There's so much premium anyways in full gold watches. That's where Rolex makes most of their money, in precious metal. The markup is so significant already that the size difference doesn't make that much of a difference in pricing for sure. Guys, we have just hit the 2.5 hour mark. Thank you for being with us. If you haven't upvoted yet, please press the like button. Every little bit helps. Every vote counts. Spread the word. If you gain me another subscriber on my path to reach 1,000 subscribers, it would be great. I'm on my path to monetization. So if you check my other videos, there's a lot of new content. You gain me watch hours, so that helps quite a bit. But before I get there, if you want to encourage me in creating more new and original content, you can always consider a PayPal donation at lordhellespontv@gmail.com. That's lordhellespontv@gmail.com. I also have a Cash App at $LHVVV. So again, if you want me to create more content where I scourge the internet for great deals for you, some value propositions, if you want me to do your personalized video, you can use the same email address for the PayPal to send me an email with the details. A collection review, which is something that I already did with Joe, for example. I can do that for you as well. Again, the PayPal address is lordhellespontv@gmail.com. I've also just uploaded a dedicated video for the 50th birthday of the Royal Oak, and I've also did a recent expose of how Hodinkee is blurring the line between editorial and advertorial in their coverage of LVMH brand watches. And LVMH, of course, has just about 2 years ago, provided a $40 million cash injection to Hodinkee. So we have now a great watch outlet that has a wealth of knowledge and an interesting presentation, a lot of good and knowledgeable characters appearing there all the time. But they're also a retailer, and they're now also seemingly an advertising brands of LVM as advertising wing or advertising arm of LVMH branded watches. So that is a small concern. Of course, in the fine print, they cover their legal tracks in saying that we have this connection with LVMH, but we maintain complete editorial independence. The ethical question remains, and it is something that we will continue to explore in the coming weeks and days. What's up, Joe?
Nothing. I mean, this is this is just all speculation, as it's all speculation, as Donald Trump would say. I think, I don't know. The main problem I have is, well, my girls know I won't flip Rolex. I'm also fairly inconsistent too. So Like one week I'll come in and say I want the Batgirl. Next, I kind of start raving about the root beer. I'm pretty sure I could have had either one by now if I would have stayed consistent. And rightfully so, it kind of irritates them a little bit because they just don't know which way I'm going to lean, honestly. But I think either way, they know whatever they give me, I'll be happy with. But I don't know. It's just a speculation that they would pull up a date before a Batgirl, honestly. And the Batgirl, if they called me today and said the Batgirl, then I wouldn't move anything. I'd maybe probably dump the Speedmaster, honestly, and then just fill in the gap there. But I don't think I honestly would. I think I'd just buy it outright.
So you are settling into it. You are growing used to your Speedmaster.
Oh, I mean, look, I've always liked the Speedmaster. I mean, I know I make jokes and bust balls, but yeah, I've always liked the Speedmaster. The only reason I just never kept it is because it looked ridiculously big on me. Well, I'm not saying it doesn't now, but something about the way the old case was, the way it was just proportioned out, just made it just look very awkward on my wrist. And the new one, like I said, I mean, technically everything's spec for spec, but it's just the way they kind of curved everything. It's like a voluptuous lady, right? She's got the curves, and the curves make the difference. So, yeah, I've always liked the Speedmaster, 100%. But I always know the Speedmaster is an easy watch to dump out of and get back again, too.
Yeah, but now that you have had it for a few weeks, you don't think it's so big that it's uncomfortable and that you can't wear it, right? You're actually enjoying it.
It was never uncomfortable, but I mean, I still recognize it's too big for me. I'll be honest, I haven't worn it hardly at all last 2 weeks, because I have it on that NATO, and in my line of work, getting that kind of gunk and crap and stuff on the NATO, I'd feel guilty on. But yeah, I mean, overall, when I do wear it, I'm perfectly fine with it. I think it's a comfortable watch to wear.
Okay, well, I'm glad. I hope you won't be forced to, or you won't be moved to sell it, and whether you get another Rolex anytime soon or not, because I feel like you have been enjoying that watch quite, a great deal recently.
Oh, 100%. I love the bracelet, and I think when I get that Batgirl, the Batgirl might be a primary daily beater for me. Honestly, as fucked up as that is to say, but that's my first legit Jubilee style quality watch I've had, and I think it's fantastic.
I don't think it's outrageous at all. Look, I'm a big advocate of just wear your watches. I don't care how much they're trending for in the secondary market. If you love it, if you paid so much money for it, even at retail, these watches cost a lot of money. You owe it to yourself to wear it. You can baby it while you're wearing it. I understand that. You can be kind to it. You can beat it around if you would like. Do whatever you want, man. Just enjoy the watch. Bert K says, is purchase history the best way to establish a relationship with an AD? What do you think, Joe?
Yes and no. I mean, with my boutique, I kind of did it. I don't know. I guess some would argue I did it incorrectly because I bought right off the showroom floor. So I technically, while I do have purchase history with them, I don't have purchase history with them. Like I didn't buy a bunch of fucking garbage from them. Tudors, Bell & Ross, Oris. I think if you do that, I mean, I know people hate hearing that, but I think if you do that type of purchasing, it goes a long ways for you, honestly.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, I don't play those games at all, but that's a luxury I have because I don't desire a lot of the contemporary watches, right? The only watch that I would truly want to have in the current lineup is the SD43. So I'm not I'm not the right person to ask, not because I don't know, but because I don't care enough to make certain kinds of sacrifices. To me, it sounds ridiculous to get things you don't actually want, you don't actually have a use for. To me, it sounds ridiculous that you would have to spend exorbitant, inordinate amounts of money on jewelry just because they might end up getting you a watch. But I'm also, I wasn't born yesterday. I know they all have their preferred customers, and I know having a certain purchase history helps. But if you are in a big metropolitan area, or at least in the driving distance to more than one AD, at the end of the day, your relationship with an AD goes through a sales associate, right? And again, when it all comes down to it, your relationship with the sales associate is a human relationship. So you go out, you go into every single AD you can actually reach that is actually in a driving distance to you, and you check the pulse. You read the room, and at the end of the day, I think you can find at least one sales associate if you end up visiting, three to half a dozen different locations, and you start working that relationship. And I think that's a much more reasonable, to me, again, someone who has very little to lose. If no one gets me the Sea Dweller 43, I don't care. But to me, that's a much more reasonable position to be in. Work your relationship with a specific person, visit them on a regular basis. I don't care if you consider it, if you consider it demeaning or whatever. I'm sorry, you won't be able to do it. But hey, yes, bring them something little once every so often. Hey, bring them a bagel, bring them some donuts, bring them some sweets. I don't know if it's a lady, bring them a nice bottle of wine.
Cartier jewelry.
If it's a guy, I wouldn't do that. If it's a guy, bring them a decent, not exorbitant, but decent bottle of scotch. Remember their name. Establish a human connection, and I'm sure they will get you something. It may not be exactly the watch you want, but they will get you a nice Rolex watch, and maybe you can then build a relationship on buying what you want and what you will actually wear. And hey, they might get you actually the watch you exactly want as your first purchase. It has happened to a lot of people in the community, and it has happened as the first purchase. Unfortunately, we don't have Aussie expat here with us today, but he can attest to this.
Right. Another thing I would say though is pick one dealer. Like I know what is the original C. He kind of gets on his knees and kind of the ADs, but he does do one thing correctly, and that is he sticks with one AD. Now,
yes,
I'm a little different. So I pick one boutique to visit frequently, to the point where I guess you could argue I am a little annoying. I stop in maybe about 3 times a month. But the thing is though, when I do stop in, I stop in with other watch brands like Omega, JLC, Cartier, just for them to drop the links on the watch. Truthfully, I could do this with any other jeweler, but I stop in there consistently, and I sit there and talk watches with them. Now, granted, most of what I say probably goes through one ear and out the other, but the thing is, though, I'm coming in there and I'm frequently talking watches and showing different calibers of watches that I have, and they've actually kind of put 2 and 2 together. Not that it's not hard, and they know that I am a watch guy. So even though I do shop around, I always go back to them. have them do all the cleaning for my watches, have them, I buy a piece or two from them. But the main focus is if they're a smaller boutique, they're one that I talk to with regularly. Even though it is a 45-minute drive from me, they still know that I'm technically local to them, and they know that the watches that I typically have, that I actually care about, that I can go on and blabber on for a couple minutes on. So they know that I am a genuine character when it comes to watches, and I think you can do that, and I think that's technically my purchase history there. Is even though they don't sell Omegas, Tag Heuers, Cartier, JLC, they know that I'm in. They know the watch that I have. I bought it for a strategic reason, and I intend to keep. And I think that's what kind of also puts me in a good light with them, because I bring in some very odd pieces to them. Like I know one gal was kind of freaking out about the JLC reversal because she's never seen one. And she was geeking out about the whole thing. So find one boutique that you can get really cozy with and kind of shoot the shit with occasionally.
Hey, it's Reverso is the kind of watch that brings people outside of the world of watches into watches for sure, and that can be just someone who is intrigued by the slightly unusual shape, right? To us, of course, a rectangular or square or otherwise shaped watch might not be such an oddity, but for everyone else who are used to seeing either round shaped watches or Apple watches or other smart watches, it's really something unique. And once you reveal the party trick as well, the swiveling mechanism that allows you to flip it. It's a great it's a great conversation starter with people who know watches. Obviously, they're always intrigued by it, even though some might consider it an old man's watch, in which case it fits our characters at any rate, right? Old Meech and me, a 60-year-old guy trying to pose as a 37-year-old. It fits. It just fits.
Absolutely. Get them in a position where the more you talk to them, the more comfortable they'll be with you, honestly.
I'm a comparison shopper in general too, but if you can, sticking to one dealer, sticking to one store, sticking to one person makes a huge difference. And yes, if you are planning to establish any sort of relationship with an authorized dealer, first of all, stick to that dealer, but stick to a particular sales associate and actually, drop by once every so often, talk to them, like Joe said.
It helps immensely if you have furry friends. If you got furry friends, so it actually worked out for me because the vet clinic's only like 3 blocks down. So when I had my husky still, I'd always pop in with the husky, and they would always kind of flock to her. So it helps if you bring in your furry friends, if they allow it.
Yeah, good. That's a good trick. Guys, I am planning to close in about 12 minutes. If you want us to go a little longer, of course, feel free to make a contribution on PayPal or Cash App. The addresses are below on the ticker. For PayPal, lordhellespontv@gmail.com, lordhellespontv@gmail.com, which remains my primary contact. And on Cash App, it's $LHVVV. In either case, thank you for being with us today. If you haven't upvoted yet, hit the like button. Every vote counts. Spread the word. Tell all your friends and help me reach 1,000 subs.
Funny you should bring up keeping with one sales rep. So when I bought bought my very first Rolex. It was actually kind of a shitty experience, honestly. Um, so long story short, they just assumed I couldn't afford it. It was the Explorer, and I remember I kind of I did a split payment on it, half cash, half card. And I gave my card, and the lady there was like, "All right, well, come in when you have the rest of the money." And she started walking around. I'm like, "Where are you going?" And then I tossed the rest of the cash on the counter, and she was like, "Oh, I didn't realize we were doing this today." Anyways, she was technically my original sales rep at my boutique, and I don't know. I guess she just kind of thought that was like a one-trick pony thing, and I bought what was it? I think I bought my Yachtmaster from a blonde haired girl, and she's been my sales rep ever since then. It was kind of funny because I bought several, well, maybe not several, but I bought a few watches from her. And my original sales rep that I bought my Explorer from kind of hovers around her a lot. So I think she kind of realized that she kind of fucked up and now she kind of wants me back now. I don't know. Not that it's that much of a big deal, but I just find it humorous.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I mean, I think staying with one person is good, but not at the expense of everything, right? If that person, even with that one sale that could have opened doors for you in that dealer, if they spoiled that experience for you, maybe you're not encouraged to go any further. I understand that. Not we all have principles, and you don't want them to be shattered. Peter Ross, welcome, bless you, and that watch boy, welcome to the channel. We're about to close unless a contribution comes through on PayPal or Cash App, which are on the ticker below. But for the last stretch, I'm happy to have you guys on board. We were talking about first watches, only watches earlier, right? If someone approached you at this point in time and asked for a suggestion for their first watch under 3.5K in US dollars, what would you recommend? So if you have any recommendations, drop them in the chat. Feel free to jump on the panel. The link is there. What would your suggestion be, Mike? I haven't asked you yet.
Oh man, that's a tough one actually. Because 3.5 doesn't get you a whole lot nowadays, which is kind of fucked up to say.
Retail
New
or
used?
Yes. Yes.
3.5. I'd probably say. Now, this would probably granted take a little digging, and you might probably be buying one that's fairly beat to shit. But an Omega Seamaster 300M, if you can. For a while, they used to be at 3.8, 3.9. I remember seeing a couple, and this was like last year, you could get one at 3.7. But they've kind of went up a little bit in price. But I think that would be probably the best first watch option because it's a diver. You get a date complication with it, adjustable clasp, looks better on a NATO or a rubber strap. It's kind of hard to beat if you can get it at that 3.5 price point.
Yeah, that was actually one of the first ones came up, and especially if you want to go a little further back, the first automatic Bond watch with that older version of the wave dial, those you can find certainly right under 3.5K, and the better condition you can find them in, the better it is. If the bracelet is in good condition, especially, they're beautiful because the aluminum bezel will have faded. That dial color and the execution of the waves is impeccable because it's hand-guided machinery at the time, not laser engraving. So it has a little more depth and a little more play on that dial. and it's a great find. And the reference number for those of you who missed that earlier conversation, as Messaging Matters shared, was 2531.80. It's a great suggestion, Joe, and I'm glad we concur on that level, because whether you settle on that particular Seamaster or not, there's the GMT version with the big triangle, and without that much hated helium escape valve. It's that should be also around that price range, I think.
They used to be. See, the old Speedmasters, and they've all jumped up a little bit in price. I mean, they're not crazy right now, but they're like 4.2, 4.5 now. So.
Oh yeah, you can easily find them. Look, I mean, just random eBay listing. I'm sure you can find it even cheaper. Let me pull it up.
Yeah, but then you're running into the risk of fakes.
No, I'm just a price gauge. I'm not recommending anyone that they pull the trigger right now on this one, but this is the model I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
No helium escape valve, the beautiful big triangle, lovely loomed sword hands, the GMT functionality. Look at this beauty. And it sits right at that 3.5K mark. It has the hippocampus on the back. It has that beautiful little detail of gold-colored Omega symbol on the bracelet, 50th anniversary edition. I think this is a gorgeous watch, and I would easily recommend it to anyone as a first watch. Like you said, it's a beautiful sports watch. This one also has the GMT function. The god awful helium escape valve is not there. It's just amazing. And look, this is the reference number 253450 00. It's a great option. Again, you can find it right around this price. Watch for, you can look far and wide. This is actually sold here by Swiss Watch Expo, which is a reputable dealer. I've never dealt with them, but this is not a private seller, so it's relatively reliable. But more importantly, you can use that reference number, and you can use that price point as a gauge for your future purchases. SP, welcome. We are closing quite soon, unless something comes through as a PayPal contribution to lordhellespontv@gmail.com, or as a Cash App contribution to $LHVVV. But I'm glad you joined us for the last stretch, and that was just the 50th anniversary Seamaster GMT that we shared with that older, beautiful wave dial as well. I think that's a great first watch too. SP has a good recommendation, actually, just because we set the ceiling as 3.5 thousand US dollars doesn't mean we have to spend it all. You can always rely on some of the older SKXs that have been discontinued now. Seiko 5 still provides a good option. A lot of the Prospect series, all the way up to 1,000, 1.2K at retail, they provide great value. Of course, you can get discounts on them from a Seiko authorized dealer. You can find them cheaper in the secondary market online. So check them out. I'm very happy with my king turtle as well. I love all the elements of the ceramic bezel. I love the holes case. I love the waffle dial. I love the sapphire crystal. It's a great little watch. I don't even mind the candy bar Cyclops. So SRPE 05, I think, is the reference number. I think the list price should be $599. I got mine online full package at $350 after everything was said and done. I think that was great. Joe says Longines Spirit, the Enigma code for $3,000. For less, get a Hamilton khaki field mechanical for 400. Yeah, those are great options as well. Joe, thank you so much. Do you have any last words before we close?
Any last words? No. Nope.
Okay. Well, guys, it's been a pleasure to be with you tonight. Thank you for joining me on the panel. Thank you for joining me in the chat, dropping by with your comments, asking some questions, contributing to the topic of discussion at hand. It's been great being with you. If you want to support the channel, every little bit helps. So like the video, smash that like button if you haven't upvoted yet. Spread the word, tell all your friends. All of that helps a great deal. If you want to encourage me in running these live streams on a more regular basis, if you want to encourage me to create more dedicated content, which I'm doing at least a few times a week, but if you want me to do it more often, if you want to create that chance and opportunity for me in creating new and original content, consider making a PayPal contribution at lordhellespontv@gmail.com, lordhellespontv@gmail.com. That is also my primary point of contact. And you can also make a contribution on Cash App with $LHVVV. Thank you again for everything, and I'll see you tomorrow with some new content and on Archie's live stream, this after show. See you soon.
Take care,
Bye.
guys.
Take care.